I am so excited that you're joining us today for this Parent University session on the Guide to Graduation, College, and Career. Today, we'll talk about how 9th through 11th graders can make the most out of their individualized guide. And to do that, we have two amazing guests who will walk us through the guide, the resources that are available to stay on track to graduation, and how to set your goals for your career and for college. With us, we have Lindsay Peck. She is part of the DCPS Persists team, who will talk to us about the guide. And we also have Shemia Anderson, who is the graduation manager here at DCPS Public Schools. Both of them will walk us through how to stay on track to graduation and reach your goals. But before we begin, I want to talk a little bit about what is the guide. As I mentioned, the guide is individualized for every single 9th through 11th grader. And the main goal of the guide is to provide students, families, and staff and partners with a clear understanding of college and career pathways based on a student's individualized metrics and plans. So the guide pulls information from the student, like the grades, classes completed, SAT scores, PSAT scores, and it matches that up with the information that students complete in a survey to show their interests about the pathways they might want to follow, the careers they might want to have, if they want to go to a 2 or 4 year university. So that is what is available in the guide. Again, it's very individualized for every single student. Now, how to access the guide? You can access the guide in two ways. The first is via a printed copy in the mail. You will receive this copy in the mail in about 3 weeks because it takes a while to print and to mail it out. If you want your guide right away, it is available now as we speak in Aspen Parent Portal. So you can log into the Parent Portal and view it two ways. The first is by logging in, looking on the lower right hand side of your screen, and you will see it under Published Reports. That's where the guide will be, under Published Reports. If you're in the Aspen Parent Portal, you can also go to your right, and you will see the side tab that says Family. Click on that, then click on Documents, and then that's where you'll be able to see your student guide. So those are two ways to see the guide. Here we have a screenshot of how this looks like in Aspen Parent Portal. So you can see it right there on your home page under Published Reports, or you can see it to your on the sidebar under Documents tab. That's where you can also locate the guide. If you need more information on how to access Aspen Parent Portal, that is linked in the description box in this video. Right, so now let's talk about how to use the guide. And to talk about how to use the guide, let's walk through the guide page by page. And Lindsay will be joining us for this time shortly. But first, I wanted to mention two quick things about page 1 and page 2. So page 1 is the opening letter. That is a letter from the Chancellor that the Chancellor signs. And that sets up the context for the guide. So it's really important to review. On that opening letter, you will also find information about who's your school principal, their email, who is the student's school counselor, which is very important, and their email will be listed there too. So that's what you can find in the opening letter. Page 2 has the student transcript, and Lindsay will talk to us more about page 2 and how to use it.
This is the academic record for accomplishments that are happening in high school for 9th, 10th, and 11th graders. This is a work in progress, right? And so this is not anything that is final, but just an update so that you can see alongside the guide where a student is at. It is there for a little bit of convenience so that as you're going through the guide, you don't have to go back into your portal to reference a transcript. It's all right there in the same packet. And that is also part of the reason why it is individualized for every student, because it includes their specific transcript. Remember that the transcript that is included in the guide is not official. It is not a transcript that can be sent to colleges and universities for any application purposes. And so you can always talk to your school counselor to get a signed copy and a sealed official transcript if you're using that for any scholarships or any application materials. The next page goes into how to use the guide. And so starting after the transcript, we have a set of personalized pages that go through how on track you are to graduate from high school, as well as thinking about potential pathways towards college, career, anything else that a student might be thinking about after graduation from high school. We use a little bit of jargon in the guide, only because there's only so much space we have to get information out. And so some of the labels that you'll see commonly across the top of the page for the student, and this will come on every page subsequently after the transcript. Every page beyond that will have this bar at the top that includes the student name and ID, what grade they're in as of the printing of this guide, as well as a number of acronyms that I'll go through now. The first acronym is in-seat attendance. So this is the indicator of how frequently students are counted as in attendance in school. The PSAT and SAT numbers you'll see are standardized tests that colleges often, but not always, use to help determine admission to their college or university. The PSAT is more of a preparatory or practice exam that helps get students ready for the SAT. And so there is a PSAT 8/9 is kind of the version of the PSAT out there right now. There's another version that you would see called NMSQT that is also available. They are out of a different point total. And so it's important to know which one you took. And so that would be labeled on the top of the guide for you to know. And then the SAT, which is the next section, is the more advanced standardized test. And that is out of 1,600 for all students. There are no longer different versions of that that have different point totals. And so SAT is out of 1,600. Community service hours are listed. Every student needs at least 100 hours of community service to graduate. Some schools require more hours of community service, and so that is something that you would reference with your school. And then a weighted GPA is a formula of points that is based on the grades that a student gets in a given term or a given year. And so a weighted GPA actually also takes into account the difficulty of your courses. And so if you are taking an AP class versus a college level class versus a standard class, those might be weighted a little bit differently because an AP class might have more weight, might have more work associated with it. And so it could contribute to a higher GPA than someone who's taking a similar course in terms of content, but at a different level. Okay, one of the most important pages and most tailored pages for each student is the graduation progress page. And so this page gives you all of the different categories and subjects that are required for graduation and gives an update status of how on track a student is towards meeting each requirement. Each checkbox, you'll notice many checkboxes here. Each checkbox is 0.5 credits. And for community service hours, it's 12.5 hours of community service per checkbox. The graduation requirements on this page are unique to each school. And so it is absolutely tailored to the school that the student is going to. And then if you are off track, then there are a number of resources that you can go to ask for help about getting back on track. And then before I pass it to Shamia to talk more about some of those resources, I will just mention that when in doubt, there is a key at the bottom of the page that tells you what the colors and what the checkbox means. And so that is all there on the page for you as well as you're reviewing the guide. And so now I will pass it to Shamia to talk through a little bit more about some of the resources available for students in high schools to make sure that they're on track to graduate and to support any kind of plans and thoughts that are coming through for students as they are going through their high school journey. So Shamia, take it away.
Thank you, Lindsay. So as Lindsay said, every school is very unique when it comes to our graduation requirements. But in order to get the standard DCPS diploma, we are requiring 100 hours of voluntary community service. And at least 2 of the 24 Carnegie units must be a college level or career preparatory course. So as you can see in our guide, when you look, we break it down by the subject areas and then the amount of credits that you can obtain. So when we're looking at the subject areas, there are 4 credits for English that's needed. In mathematics, we're looking for 4 credits, including Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2. For your science, there are 4 credits, and with these 4 credits, they must include 3 lab sciences and biology, social studies, which must include World History 1 and 2, US History, US Government, and DC History. We are expecting 2 credits for moral language, a half a credit for art, that half a credit for music, 1.5 credits for health and physical education, and then 3.5 credits for our electives, which will then give you that grand total of 24 credits. But again, please do not forget, in addition to the 24 credit hours, you must have the 100 hours of volunteer community service. So we have an excellent student engagement team at Central Office, and the student engagement team supports several programs that provide targeted supports that support our students who are off track towards graduation or at risk of not graduating. We have the graduation team, which consists of myself, our graduation specialist, our 2 re-engagement specialists, and our newly hired Twilight specialist. We have the school counseling team, the post-secondary planning team, and our New Heights team. So let's look at the student academic supports that will help students if they are not on track towards graduation. First, let's talk about your school counselor. Your school counselor is the go-to person. When you are at school, it's the first persons that you will be introduced to. And the school counselor helps our students develop that academic achievement strategies. They also manage emotions and help you apply them to your interpersonal skills. They help you plan that post-secondary options that you may have after high school. They support our students through the classroom lessons, small group support, and individual check-ins with specific students. And they help to focus on building a student's strength so they can thrive at school, at home, and in the community. So I suggest, as soon as you know who your school counselor is, really being able to get familiar with your school counselor, contacting that school counselor. And again, every student has a school counselor within DCPS. Secondly, we're going to talk about the pathway coordinators. And our pathway coordinators serve students who are specifically at risk or not on track to graduate. And our pathway coordinators are in all of our comprehensive high schools, our opportunity academies, Ron Brown and Czech High School. They ensure students understand what they need to graduate. So as Lindsay talked about with the student guide, knowing if you are on track to graduate. And then they also help to receive the rights of supports and services, and they advocate for our youth. They lead programming to help students get back on track to graduate. So in addition to now having your school counselor, you also have a pathway coordinator that helps to get you back on track if you happen to slide off track, and really work to get you to graduate within 4 years of high school. Next, we're going to talk about that DCPS New Heights program. And our New Heights is a voluntary school-based service program that's designed to support our expectant and our parenting students enrolled at DC Public Schools. They help us engage in school, connect us with resources, gain life skills, and help you to graduate with a viable post-secondary plan. So let's look at one of our programs called Credit Recovery that really works to help our students get back on track if they're not on track. And our Credit Recovery program allows students to relearn content and earn credit in a course that they have previously failed. So when you're coming in, we know that high school is exciting, and we know sometimes things happen, life happens, and let's say, for instance, you fail a credit. So you're coming in at 9th grade, and I'll use Algebra 1 as an example. You do not get that Algebra 1 credit that you should have. You would then talk to your counselor, who will then put you in contact with your pathway coordinator, or they may collaborate together. And one of the things that they're going to work to do is enroll you in the Credit Recovery program. Our Credit Recovery program are self-paced courses, and they focus on content mastery. Here, students are able to earn credit upon successful completion of the required coursework. So again, we're working to relearn or recover a credit that we previously were not able to gain. And in our Credit Recovery program, they are small class sizes that allow for that individualized instruction that students may not necessarily be able to grasp or get during the school day. And these courses include direct teacher-led instruction and independent work. So I'm going to switch gears because we just talked about credit recovery. And now I'm going to talk about another academic support to help get our students back on track for graduating. And this program is our Twilight program. Now, Twilight is a little different from credit recovery. Twilight allows our students to take original credits that they need in order to graduate. So here, these are classes that students did not necessarily fail. They may have come into DCPS from another county, another state, and they didn't necessarily take the classes that are required to graduate. These are what we call the original credits. And here, students in this program, the courses are all aligned with the district expectations and policies, and these are applicable to the regular day classes. Programming is available in 10 of our high schools, but students are able to cross-enroll at other schools if needed. So whereas our credit recovery program is for students who failed courses, our Twilight program is different. The Twilight program is more geared towards students who need original credit courses in order to be on track for graduation. So this is just a diagram that shows you whether you would need credit recovery versus our original credits. And again, we've talked previously about utilizing your counselor, because most counselors have this diagram, or the pathway coordinator, where they can actually advise you on which class you would need to take. Again, so a counselor will examine your transcript. They're going to look at that transcript and they're going to say, hey, this is how many classes you need to be on track to graduate. You may have failed a class. I may need to put you in credit recovery. Or if there's a class that you've never taken for original credit, I may put you in original credit. But again, knowing your options, knowing what you need, your pathway coordinator, your counselor are two good resources within your school to be able to go to and talk about the classes that you'll need. And from there, they'll work to schedule you in those classes, either in after school, or they'll even talk to you about summer school. That's for your credit recovery. For your original credit, they'll talk to you about after school, some taken during the school day, or they'll talk to you about summer school. But the idea is to get you to earn those credits. So let's look at another resource that we have within DCPS, and that's our College and Career Coordinator. And they have major roles and responsibilities, but one of them is to make sure that there is a college and career advising team. And this team leverages the different resources to offer what we call the high quality college and career counseling experience. And they utilize the post-secondary and career data to create those goals and drive student programming. They also support the coordination to secure career exploration opportunities and internships in the local community right here in DCPS or in DC. They ensure effective implementation of college and career tools and programming, and they provide resources and support post-secondary plans. So now I've introduced you to the pathway coordinator, the college and career coordinator, the school counselor, and the New Heights coordinator. So let's look at some of the post-secondary planning and the major components. So we'd like to start out with what we call exposure. And that's simply ensuring that all of our students in 9th through 12th grade are introduced to all of the post-secondary pathway possibilities. College-bound students, those who are career driven with career education, employment, apprenticeship, or military. Then we work with them, the college and career coordinators work with them to do some goal setting. And here we are encouraging our students and making sure that they have the opportunity to memorialize or their preferred post-secondary plans and to receive tailored supports. And then lastly, we have the action planning. So providing students with the opportunity to receive those tailored supports, the resources, and the opportunities to pursue their post-secondary plans. So when you look at post-secondary planning, there's a lot to think about, but this is preparation for life after high school, and then having students explore and research options that are best aligned to their career goals. By ensuring that all of our 9th grade students, 9th through 12th grade students have those post-secondary plans, we are making sure that our students are more aware of the post-secondary possibilities and that we can deliver tailored supports and resources and opportunities. And lastly, having those college and career coordinators, they are available at 9 of our high schools. So you can talk with those college and career coordinators to, even at as early as the 9th grade, to definitely find out your interests, what you're interested in, if it's college, if it's career, if it's the military, things that you will think about outside of going to school, 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th, and then when you hit your senior year, it's time then to focus on the post-secondary planning. And I'm going to turn it back over to Lindsay to continue to talk about how to use this guide.
Thank you, Shamia. I appreciate all of your thoughts on the vast resources that are available at each of the schools to help support students, not only with academics, but also with choices about course formatting, as well as some other folks who are available to help support students. They actually use the guide as well as a springboard to these conversations. And so you all who are watching here, you are a part of this team who are using the guide to help fuel conversations about what life will be like after graduation. And so I'm excited that you are a part of this team. Here's the rest of what the guide looks like, because we just went through a lot of requirements and ways to ensure that a student is on track to graduation. And so once we get through the course content and ensuring that a student will make it to graduation, the rest of the guide really starts to think about what are the options once they cross that stage. And so there is, first and foremost, a college prep page. And so the college prep page of the guide specifically goes through and looks at a student's GPA and a student's SAT scores and how that might fit into the college admissions process. There is a scale that explores some of the likely schools that a student might be able to get into, some of the match schools that are well matched for students, as well as points out some of the reach schools that might be a reach to get into, but definitely worth applying to do that reach, because we know that our students are phenomenal and can rise to the occasion. One of the tools that it also talks through is the ability to start at a local community college. And so there are some information about the local community colleges, as well as the types of transfer institutions that students typically go to once they do complete their community college coursework. The last thing that the college prep page works on is the Smart College Choice Initiative. This is an initiative that DCPS celebrates, that talks about the not just deciding about a college based on the prettiest campus or the most famous person who attended there. But instead, it provides a wealth of information about thinking through what does it mean to make a smart college decision. It considers things like graduation rates of colleges and works on an average to say, if there's a college out there that has a high graduation rate of its students, and then a similar college that has a low graduation rate of its students, it's probably likely that the college with the higher graduation rate is supporting and preparing students to a higher level than the other college, because there are more students on a percentage scale who are graduating from those high graduation colleges. It also takes into account things like your own SAT and GPA data that help inform where the best fits are going to be for you as a student or for your student as a parent. All right, we're getting to near the end. The next few pages of the guide talk through a career, as well as in the high school world, what students might be more familiar with the words CTE, or career technical education, as well as work-based learning. And so based on student interest that they fill out during a survey after they talk about their post-secondary plans, as Shamia mentioned, they also talk about career interests and industries that they may be thinking about going into once they graduate from high school. And so there are 3 pages that a student gets, and it includes career cluster information based on those interests. And so it is fully based on the student's choice if they filled out that survey. If they did not, it defaults to some 3 high wage and high demand fields, and those are business administration, information technology, and health sciences. For students who have coursework in career technical education or have specific programs that basically help students throughout their high school career learn more about an industry, that CTE progress, as well as any work-based learning programs, will appear as on the guide as having participated or as having made a notation of doing the work for that. And so that is, again, an individualized piece of the student guide that you'll want to look for if a student has CTE or work-based learning experience. The last page of the guide is really a set of action steps and a perfect way for you as you're going through the guide to land on what the next phase is for you and your students' conversation. There are, many different things included on this page, including 3 action items that you can take immediately that will help your student make sure that they are on track towards their high school graduation progress. Many of those suggestions and action items will probably lend themselves well to the resources that Shamia was discussing earlier. There's also 3 action steps to work towards to prepare for college goals. And so that might be something to check in with your student about, to say, hey, these action steps are suggested. If you're planning on going to college, then you might want to think about doing these things in the time frame that it suggests. And then there are 3 action steps for career goals and opportunities and interests in case a student is thinking about going directly into the career world after their graduation from high school. We provide both career and college information and next steps for 9th, 10th, and 11th graders, because we know that students don't always know what they're going to be doing yet. And even if they do think that they know what they're doing, they might change their minds. And so we want to make sure that we are as comprehensive as possible when we're discussing the types of scenarios that a student might face when they're graduating from high school. And so we both include college and career information in those. All right, well, I will pass it back over to our friends at Family Engagement to wrap us up.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you guys. That was so useful, such a useful information. I know as a first generation college student, this, as I was preparing for that, this would have been like life-saving. So I'm really excited that we have this available for our DCPS students and families. We do have a couple of questions about the guide. And so I'm going to go ahead and ask them, and looking forward to your answers. The first is about transferring from one school to another. So if you're thinking of going back to DCPS from a private school and they have like different credit points for the graduation requirements, how can one make sure that those credit points like are transferred effectively to DCPS to make sure that the student is not repeating the same courses and that their work is that the work they've already done counts towards graduation?
So I'll take that one, Lindsay. One of the things that I would recommend is getting a hard copy of that student's transcript and taking that student's transcript up to the school. And then requesting to be able to meet with the school counselor. That way the school counselor would be able to look at the transcript and be able to give the parent or guardian a best guess estimate of what DCPS would actually count as the credits towards those 24 credits that we will require. And I know I've seen this a lot where certain classes will not count for certain things. And then students say, hey, I wouldn't have come to the school if I knew I couldn't have graduated on time. And so I would definitely say schedule an appointment with the school that students are supposed to, their neighborhood school where they're supposed to go with the counselor, have that transcript in hand to be able to give to the counselor during your meeting so that you guys can have, or as a parent, you'll be able to make an informed decision about whether that student will transfer to that school.
Thank you. And I can do that without transferring my child just yet, right? I could do that as a way to gather information.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so we have a couple of other questions. One question that came in is, how often is the transcript updated in the guide?
Yeah, so the transcript in the guide is only updated once a year, and that is as of the printing of the guide, because it's all coming together in one packet or PDF if you're looking at it online. And so it is only updated as of the start of the spring term, and that is, it includes all the classes that your student has taken, as well as the classes that are in progress. And so, for example, on that checklist page about graduation requirements, it would have you would have an idea of, here are the credits that the student has already completed. Here's what's currently in progress. And then on the side, it would say, great, your student is on track to graduate. Keep doing what you're doing. This is exactly where you're supposed to be. Probably in nicer language than that. But yeah, once a year is when that would be updated. The Aspen portal has additional instances of the transcript, unofficial, that you might be able to see student grades and student information in there as well.
Okay. Thank you. Do the service hours from 8th grade get counted in the guide? Are those like reflected in the guide?
That is a really good question. Shamia might have some more information about the high school requirements and if the 8th grade credits fall into the high school requirements, because if they do, then the guide will have reflected it. But if the 8th grade requirements are separate, then likely they are not included in the guide.
One thing we like to tell students is to definitely count your hours and bring those hours over. So if there are hours that you have volunteered and you're unsure about in the 8th grade, I would continue to keep that paperwork with those signatures. Signatures are very important with looking at our community service hours, and turn those in immediately to your counselors. Your counselors then will be able to tell you if those service hours will count towards your 9th grade year. One of the things that we like to tell our students is kind of set a goal with your community service hours. Don't wait until just your senior year to gain credits. So a student thinking about gaining their credits in the 8th grade is definitely something that I like to commend, but definitely working, as we've said, there's 100 credit hours that you need to graduate. Sectioning off those credit hours in sections of 25, it's an easy number to remember. So thinking that by the end of your 9th grade year, you want to have 25 done and completed. Then when you get to your 10th grade year, you want to have another 25 done. So you now have 50 credits out of those 100 credits that you need. So then your 11th grade year, working again to have those 25 credits completed so that you're at 75. And then your senior year, you won't have so many because now you just have those 25 credits that you need. And that's just an easy way to think about dividing off those community service hours.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that answer. We have another question here. The question is, can a parent get a guide if they don't have a child in DCPS yet? Is there like a template they could look at, a list of requirements or anything that could help?
Yeah, so unfortunately, we only produce specific student level individualized guides for students who are enrolled at DCPS for that given year. However, we do have a sample guide on our website. And so I'm going to actually put the website in the chat right now. DCPS goes to college.org. And I think it's .org. Please correct me if it's .com and I forgot. And so that has a sample guide. And so, you know, it might not have the same individualized SAT and GPA data, you know, thing at the band at the top, but it is still going to be an excellent springing off point for helping you, you know, look at the college page and the career pages, as well as the next steps items to be able to start a conversation. You just might need to connect some of the dots about where are you in this equation when you're talking to your student.
Awesome, thank you. Talking about the guide and the data that's in the guide, there is the ISA, in-seat attendance. When I look at that number, is that a percent or is there an actual day of my student being present? And more importantly, what is it that I'm looking for? Can my child not graduate if that number is too low?
So one of the things that I like to, I know that the in-seat attendance is one of the hot topic questions from parents. And one of the things that I would do is I will work to get to school every day. We know that there are some times where students are not able to come because they are sick, not feeling well, deaf in a family. But one of the things that I would do is definitely work to get there every day. I know that we have the robocalls that go out when students have missed a period, can't come or didn't come in for some reason. Or the one thing that I would encourage is definitely not to ignore those phone calls, but to, when in doubt, if you feel like your student is maybe skipping a class and may have missed a class by mistake, just simply give the student, give the school a call, give them the student's name, and then they'll be able to give you more details about the in-school or the in-seat attendance. And most of the high schools have attendance counselors. So the attendance counselors, and I didn't talk about those being a part of the academic support programs at DCPS, but most of the high schools have attendance counselors that can then walk you through your child's attendance while they're at school and while they've been at school the entire day, the entire month. They would have that information. So I would definitely say reach out to the school and talk with the attendance counselor regarding that in-seat attendance, that we want to definitely keep those numbers high.
Thank you. Two more questions. So there was a lot of information here, and the main takeaway that I got was that I need to know who my child's school counselor is. How do I find out who that person is?
Wow, what a great question setup. I definitely forgot to talk about that, and you just nailed it on the head. That is perfect. In the student's guide, there is actually on the chancellor's opening letter, you know, it has the, you know, it's from the chancellor and signed by him, but it also has the student's principal and their email, as well as the school counselor and their email. And then if the school has a CCC, a college and career coordinator, as Shamiya was talking about, there are 9 comprehensive schools that have those CCCs. That person will also be listed along with their email. And so you have contact information for 2 or 3 school leaders that can help you get to the place that you need to go. And that school counselor is usually the first step.
Cool. Thank you. And if there are no other questions from the folks who are present in the call, I have a final question. So this guide is coming up now, which is great because we can use the summer to prepare. What is the most important piece of advice you can provide families on how to use the guide to maximize the summer?
I can go first. I think for me, something about the guide that is unique is that it is both a conversation starter as well as something that is uh, creating pathways and options for students. And so as students are going through high school and into their alumni years, they are getting increased exposure to making their own decisions and being able to discern what their future is going to be like. And so the guide really starts to set students up for understanding what that individual journey looks like, as well as being accessible to parents and families to get in on the ground level for those conversations and potentially help build a safety net around the student regarding some of the action items that they have and some of the ownership that they are taking over their own experiences. And so that to me is one of the best educational opportunities available is for students to be able to start and think about things on their own. And of course, with you all as families and parents, right beside them, seeing everything that they're seeing and able to help process those decisions with them. So.
And I think that after looking at the guide to kind of really see where a student is, one of the recommendations that I would have is definitely sat down with the school counselor to really be able to see where a student is at the end of that year. If the student at the end of the year has passed all classes, they can still have the conversation with the counselor with what they are to look forward to for the following year, and really be able to talk with the counselor about their interests, again, sparking that interest and being able to know the classes that they're going to take next year and how those classes will be able to set them up for success, thinking forward to their junior and to their senior year. I know our counselors are 11-month employees. So in July, the beginning of July, I think they're working to kind of wind down and go home for the summer. But there are still 12-month employees that could guide you through what it is that you need to do to either stay on track or get back on track. And the pathway coordinators are the person that I would necessarily ask for if the counselors are not available. Those pathway coordinators can pull transcripts and be able to look at the transcript and say, hey, here's the amount of credits that you've gained at the end of your 9th grade year. Here's what you need to take as a 10th grader. Here are the classes that you should be enrolled with. And really getting our students to be able to advocate for themselves and know the classes that they need and know why they need those classes. So the pathway coordinator would be another person that I would be able to go to and talk with in plans to wrapping up for this summer and then thinking about moving, coming back into the school for the fall.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that advice. So for this video, because this is being recorded as a video, the description under the video will have the links that I entered in the chat. So if you're viewing this recording, you can access like every link that has been put in the chat in there. Before we close out, I want to thank you guys again for all this like wealth of information, and I'm really excited to see the guide, which is as if we speak, it's getting uploaded for every single student. So very exciting. So I want to just share a little bit more where you can find more information. This recording is available on YouTube as all of our other recordings. So if you're an 11th grader and you're seeing this, or an 11th grade family, and you're seeing this, we have videos about financial aid. So check those out. You can also find us on social media. That's where we promote our events. You can engage with us. You can send us a message, and I manage those, so I'll answer. So send us a message through that. Follow us for more information.